JJ McCarthy, who will return this weekend 7 weeks after suffering a high ankle sprain. Week 2, Sunday Night Football, in a loss to the Falcons that was very, very deflating following that thrilling Week 1 Monday night win at Chicago when the Vikings were sluggish for 3 quarters and then they finally found their groove. They need to figure out whether or not they found their quarterback. By the way, I did find someone who does not want me to stick to my day job. You may remember last week I shared with you some feedback from someone who noticed that I've changed the format of the show on Thursday. I prefer that you have a co-host every day instead of you being alone. Do you love yourself that much? Remember that. Another email from someone who may not want me to stick to my day job. On your own again. I can't deal with it. Have a great day. Back to painting. Oh, well. Another email came in response to the guy who told me to stick to my day job. F that guy, although it was the other 3 letters attached to the F. That is a word that would be bleeped in a Brian Schottenheimer press conference and not create any confusion about what the hell was bleeped and why was it bleeped and why was the bleep so long. The absence of Mike McCarthy, JJ McCarthy, Mike McCartney, too many McCarthy's, Paul McCartney. The absence of JJ McCarthy, Charlie McCarthy, that's a very dated reference. JJ McCarthy was longer than anyone would have expected, although after the Vikings won in Cleveland and then embarked on their bye week before they played the Eagles, the question was, would Carson Wentz play against Philly or would it be JJ McCarthy? And I poked around, and that's when I got some clarity on this injury because the initial reports were 2 to 4 weeks for the high ankle sprain. I was told it's 4 to 6, and the Eagles game would have landed at 5, right in the midpoint of the estimated absence for JJ McCarthy. So Eagles was 5. Last week was 6, and it wasn't really 6 because it was a Thursday night game. So it was 5 and 4 days. 7 weeks is Sunday against the Detroit Lions. So McCarthy's ready to go. And early on, Kevin O'Connell said that it can't be just a situation where JJ McCarthy is healthy the night before a game. He's got to be healthy enough to participate in the full week of practice. And O'Connell at that time also tiptoed through a potentially delicate minefield when he said, hey, look, let's face it, against the Falcons, JJ didn't have a full week of practice. He needs a full week of practice. Now, he missed a day of practice because a child was born. But the reality is, when you miss that work, when it's so driven by coaching and understanding the game plan and getting the ball where it needs to be and repetition, you take away 1/3 of your work week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in advance of a Sunday game. When it's a young quarterback, he's just not going to be as ready as he could be. This week, he's getting the full week of practice. This week, he's the guy. This week, we see what he can be with a full week of preparation. And I don't want excuses being made by Kevin O'Connell or anyone else on the back end if this doesn't work, okay? It's working for Drake May. It's working more than half the time with Caleb Williams. It's working when Jaden Daniels is healthy. Michael Penix, who the hell knows what it's doing. Bo Nix, it's working. Let's not make excuses. This is big boy football. First, you got to stay healthy. And I said something about that last week, and I saw a clip of it. It's like, man, that was a little harsh, but it's not. Franchises entrust their short and long-term future to these quarterbacks. And when you make a guy a top 10 pick, it's an honor and a privilege, but it's also a hell of a burden because there are expectations. And you got to show what you can do. Look at Anthony Richardson. He got 2 years in Indianapolis before he got benched. 2 years. There's no 5-year plan in the NFL anymore. It's all year to year. Everybody is year to year. And one bad year gets you gone. Now, could JJ McCarthy be a guy that if it washes out for him in Minnesota has a great second act? Well, that would potentially lump Minnesota into the category of the dysfunctional teams because that's the type of team that it happens to. The Browns and the Jets. That's pretty much the list. At some point, they have to make an objective assessment. Is he the guy? And it doesn't mean they have to give up on him right away. They can do what the Colts did. You just make him the second string quarterback. Let him keep learning. Maybe he needs more time. Maybe we need to take a step back. It seemed to work for Bryce Young last year. But this is a hell of a test. Welcome back. We're playing the Lions in Detroit. And hey, you know what? The good news is it's his first game back in Michigan since he beat Ohio State in the 2023 college football season. Maybe that gives him a little spark. Maybe that idea of taking on this massive challenge where no one thinks you're going to win. Everyone's doubting. Why is everybody doubting me? Well, because you got injured in week 1 of the preseason last year, and then you got injured in week 2 of the regular season this year. You got to be available. You got to show that you can play the game in a way that keeps you from getting injured. That is not harsh. That is fair. If you are playing recklessly, if you are going beyond your physical capability and you get injured because of it, it's admirable, it's courageous, but it's also foolhardy because you're not available to your team. We say the same things about Tua Tagovailoa, and I say it about any quarterback. I remember the first game Robert Griffin III ever played for the Browns. It's Browns-Eagles, week 1, 2015? 2015 or 2016, 12, 13, 14, 15. It was probably 2016. He's running along the sideline. And he drops a shoulder. Instead of just getting out of bounds, drops a shoulder into an Eagles player, and there goes the shoulder, and there goes the season. He was back later, but it didn't matter by then. Jimmy Garoppolo, third game of the 2018 season at Kansas City along the sideline. Had to be a tough guy. Fine line between tough guy and meathead. Drops his shoulder into his defensive back and tears his ACL. You got to be smart. It's part of your obligation to play the game in a way that allows you to be available to your team. And I assume the Vikings have been harping on him. Now, the problem is a lot of these guys, when you get into the fray and the adrenaline is flowing and you want to do superhuman things, you find out you are very human.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.